Sea air begins to fill the cabin of your coach. The sun is rising, peaking above the coastline. Coming up over a hill, you see the town of Vindergreen. From what you've been told, Vindergreen is a small settlement, a smattering of houses, storehouses, and a few small shops for the locals, relying mostly on exports as the town grows. Your first glimpse of the town makes it clear that this was no exaggeration. A few miles north of the town, 3 fishing boats can be seen casting their nets. The 4 of you have been contracted by the town of Vindergreen to dispose of a monster. The agreed upon amount will be paid upon killing the monster. As always, bonuses are available from the Monster Hunting Guild for discovering as much as possible about the monster and documenting it, as well as finding out why it's suddenly terrorizing the people of this small town. So your coach is sort of driving down the road. It's changed from the clip-clop of a hard, dusty road as you've continued to a little muddier and a little less traveled. And more or less, it's the 4 of you sitting in a windowed coach. And if you'd like, you can, real quick, just talk about who your characters are and just do a little introduction, basically. We'll go from my left, so that's going to be Brandon first.
Yeah. So Craig is just sitting there. He's looking at the window. So this is where our beastie's been. Should be an interesting hunt. And you want to look to his companions, and then he's gonna just kind of smile and show like these like his teeth, which he has himself like just carved down to actually be somewhat sharp. What do you guys think this hunt's going to be like?
Rogel is like a hunched, incredibly gaunt guy, like wrapped up in all these robes. And from the few glimpses you've seen, he doesn't have eyes. There's nothing there. And he's kind of huddling. And he's rubbing his hands together. He's just muttering, "Not again, not again. Oh, I don't want to do it again, not again."
John, how about you?
Okay. Well, it's a kind of average, well-dressed gnome. I was describing him. Somehow he manages to look like an adventurer that got all his gear with a credit card and a Land's End catalog. He's very neat, and he's just bouncing up and down on the seat, looking out the window, and has a large white stripe through the middle of his hair that's sticking out all over the place. But I wonder what we'll get.
Thane rides in silence. He is covered in the brown and green of the forest, leather armor, a heavy hooded cloak, a long bow on his back, swords on his belt. His gaze is always cast outward, and he has not spoken much. He is a human, well-kept beard, and he doesn't seem to have much manners when it comes to the social graces.
So, as you climb out of the carriage, as it stops in Vindergreen, you see a human sporting a beer gut and a top hat, a gold tooth, and a clean-shaven baby face. You know, the normal trappings of a bureaucrat's lifestyle. This must be the man that hired you, Mayor Stuart Vanderbilt. Hello there. You must be the fellows that I hired. And he kind of looks around, despite the fact that the town is empty. And of course, I call it a town, but it's really just a couple of buildings, seemingly deserted at this point. But based on how small the town is, everyone's probably out working or doing something else. So I say we head to the tavern, the Bloody Gill, and we talk about this contract. I expect that this monster's going to attack again tonight, and well, I'd love for you to engage it then. So we've got not much daylight. You see that over the horizon, you see that it's about, sun's just rising. It's relatively early in the morning. But he begins walking toward the Bloody Gill, where the carriage has basically stopped in front of it. I would like from you guys a perception check for me.
When he says bloody gill, Rogel says, yes, bloody gill. And then he just says blood, blood, blood. To the bloody gill, I agree, yes.
Thane reaches up, tugging at the brim of his hood as his eyes dart over to his companion's mutterings. And then he follows.
So the mayor invites you into the Bloody Gill, the town's only tavern. Really, probably the biggest building in the town. Certainly the only one that's 2 stories. And as you approach, the driver of your carriage begins unloading a few crates, and a bar back comes out of the bar to confirm the delivery and kind of look it over and stuff. You can tell that the crates are bottles by the sounds they make as the driver unloads them, especially with how well you guys did with your perception check. You even recognize the stamp of a major city on the side of the box. These crates are of wine, and the fact that they're being imported to such a small town kind of strikes you as odd. You've actually seen this brand before, and you know that it certainly belongs on the top shelf. So upon entering the bar, the mayor chooses one of the many empty tables and asks you to join him. Not many people here, as like I said, they're all out working. He calls out to the bartender, a dwarven woman with a shock of red hair. 5 specials, Philly. The only other person in the bar is a gnome. You see in the corner, sort of face down on the table, but his hand still on his mug of ale.
What's the special?
Oh, you'll see. This is what our town is famous for. And a lot of the reason why it's so important that you take care of that pesky monster, because, well, we've really got to get rid of it. You see, and at this point, Philly, the dwarven bartender, walks over, and she places down a plate or on her tray are 4 small plates and one for the mayor. And each of them has a small, what looks like a little raw fish steak on it. And she puts them each in front of you, and it seems a little bit decadent for, again, such a kind of small, crappy town. And the mayor says, "A delicacy, the best tasting fish you'll find anywhere in the world. Please feel free."
It is uncooked.
Yes, it's raw. It looks kind of like a relatively, like, a little bigger than sashimi. I'm like, you're talking a kind of fat steak here. But like kind of one bite, but pretty big. If you're not into raw fish, this is not for you.
As the plate comes into front of Craig, he just goes down with his head and just grabs it with his teeth and just throws the fish back. That's all right.
All right, dear boy, you've got to be kidding me. That's the best fish you'll ever taste. It just melts in your mouth. This is what this town is for. Vindergreen is here because, well, we discovered this special fish off the coast here, and well, me and a few friends, we invested and we started this little town, and well, we export to the nearby city, and it's very important, that we keep that up. It's making me quite a pretty penny.
Thane, when a plate is set in front of him, will lift it, giving it a sniff. As long as it doesn't smell off, as in like spoiled, he has eaten much worse in his time, so he will give a grateful nod to the server and then begin eating.
And as I said, the fish does taste absolutely great. It is, if your characters are fans of fish, it is one of the best things you've ever had. And seemingly, very expensive. So the mayor says, so the payment's been agreed upon then, and you know that it has in the letter you received, sort of a standard rate. I mean, like I said, a few bonuses to be had in other places. And the mayor says, so we don't know too much about this monster. And we only called you because while there were sort of tracks of something coming into town at night, it wasn't until it attacked someone that we really thought it was a menace. And the mayor finishes his and calls to Philly. Another one for me, please.
How big were the tracks?
So we had some, over the last few weeks, some small animals wandering into town, badgers and stags and the like, nothing crazy. But some of the tracks that we found days after this thing had seemingly been here, very large, large enough to call for intrepid adventurers such as yourselves to deal with it, trust me. And with that, he's a little bit nervous. He has an air of being very nonchalant, but it's clear that he's afraid of this thing.
It has killed?
Well, not killed per se. And he looks around. He knows there's only one other person, the bartender here, but he still looks around. Someone's been hurt. A girl, a young girl, Susie. She's at the apothecary now. She hasn't woken up, unfortunately. Well, we're not sure. Fandral, the alchemist, he's tried everything that he can, but the healing potions and normal things don't seem to be working. So you may want to start your investigation there. There's also the town center. You might, if there's a ranger among you, you might be able to find some tracks of whatever this thing may be, though they're probably a few days old. Well, yes, I guess after that, the rest is up to you.
Sure. Pokes at his fish a little bit with his finger, and then it looks like he nearly snorts it, trying to sniff at it. Picks the whole plate up underneath his nose, and eventually just swallows the whole thing. Yeah. When you say big, do you mean big as a human? Big as a horse?
Well, as far as we know, no one but Susie has seen it, but, well, based on some of the tracks and the marks we've seen, a lot bigger than a horse. Probably even bigger than a bear, you might say.
Craig would click his teeth together, and then he'd look to his companions. I don't know about you three, but I'm going to the town center. I want to see what I can learn from those tracks.
Rogue will make a show of his blindness. He'll put his hands on the table trying to find the plate, and then kind of shakily grab at the fish. And he'll lift it to his nose and it's uncooked, and he'll put it back. And then he'll lean over to the mayor and he'll look at him, and the mayor will see he has no eyes, and he'll say, "Where are all the people? All the people in your town, where are they?"
Well, aside from, the bartender and the alchemist who's taking care of young Susie, they're all out on fishing boats. As I said, the major export for this town is the fish, and really it's little more of a town than, just a fishing village. But we make quite a pretty penny from the fish we export. And you notice, as you did earlier, his gold tooth and his fine clothes, and it's very clear that the town is doing well.
All of them? Where are the children? Where are the mothers? Where are all the people?
So, well, it's mostly a work town. See, me and a few people got together and we built these houses, and these people are sort of traveling away from most of their families to come here to fish. See, the amount of money that they can make is so large that it's worth it for them to come for, well, hopefully the fish doesn't dry up anytime soon, but until the money dries up, more or less. Oh, there is, and he kind of leans in and whispers, he goes, well, there is one more person. And he looks over his shoulder again at the fellow in the corner who seems to be snoring lightly. So that man there, that's Smithers Franklin. So he used to be a fisherman, and well, he's paid his dues to be here, but he can't seem to make any money at it. I guess he's not a very good fisherman. And you hear a snort from the other table as he sort of wakes up. This little gnome, Smithers, sitting in the corner, and he drinks his ale and kind of looks at you, very drunk. It's clear that he might have even been drinking all night. And he puts his head back down. Says, well, but like I said, other than that, there's nobody really here.
Ruggle will nod, and then he'll turn to the side and say to the air, I agree. I don't trust him either. And then he'll just look at the mayor for a second, and then look back down at the fish.
And a little bit taken aback, the mayor will just kind of and not meet your non-eyes, though you might not be able to tell.
As I look the place over, is there like a fire going? Like a fireplace, or?
There's a fireplace. Well, there's not a fire going, but there's a fireplace. I'd say it's probably early summer. It's warm out. It's relatively warm in here.
Okay.
And Philly would come over and say, is there anything else I can get for you, gents? Well, before you go out, I don't know, exploring.
Do you have anything cooked?
Yeah, sure. I think I could eat something from yesterday. I don't usually start much food. We have breakfast in the morning, and then when all the fishermen come in, we have something at night. But
I don't need a long story. I simply need cooked food.
All right, well, darling, calm down. And at this point, she would probably notice. You mentioned you didn't have eyes. Does it look like a disfigurement, or?
Yeah, like they've been taken out at some stage.
And at this point, she would probably have met your gaze and immediately stopped talking and rushed off to get some sort of food and potentially warm it over a cook fire.
Thane will lean over and sliding a gloved hand across the table to latch two fingers on the side of his plate and say, are you going to eat that?
Work away.
He'll smile beneath his hood as he slides the plate over and begins working on the new piece of fish. My thanks.
And shortly after that, Philly would come back with a plate of, there's just a sort of a hunk of meat on it that's been hastily warmed, sort of like a small steak, something a little bigger than a rodent, but not really anything great. Certainly not the level of the fish that you just had.
Just for clarification, is it rodent shaped or just about the size of it?
No, it is. It looks like a very small hunk of meat. Like you could tell that this sort of hunk of meat wouldn't have come from a cow or something else. It would probably have come from something the size of a chicken, but still that sort of red meat.
Yeah, this time Rogo just like unerringly goes and picks up the meat immediately without feeling around the table and puts it in his mouth and eats.
And with that, Philly kind of walks away without another word, doing her best not to re-engage the sort of disfigured person. She's still very taken aback. So then the mayor says, all right, well, I think time is getting on. And like I said, you ought to go see the Alchemist about the young girl. And definitely the town center is worth checking out. But just be careful. I'm not sure what this thing is, but well, as I said, I expect that it will be here upon nightfall, so time is of the essence.
Excuse me, sir. I'll say to the mayor before he leaves.
Yes, sir.
If I'm in need of some supplies, such as some rope and another quiver of arrows, where might I procure those?
I'm sorry. The usually they sort of everyone brings their own things. The apothecary may have some of those things. not so much for sale, but we don't keep any of those things on hand. We don't do much fighting. As you can tell, we hire out our mercenaries. But like I said, I suppose if you truly needed something, the Fangel over the apothecary may have something for you. And if needed, you can find me here or probably wandering around this small town if you need anything. But come nightfall, I will be boarded up in my own home. You understand.
Of course. Thank you.
Is most of your fishing done with nets or lines?
Interestingly, the mayor... Actually, let's do this. Give me an insight check.
Modified 20.
You can tell as he turns around to address you again that he has no clue. But he says, well, I suppose that sometimes it's done with lines and other times, I mean, I see them, they have nets out all the time. Yeah, so a little bit of both, I'd say. But again, it's clear, especially to you, but probably the others of you, that he's got no clue. I mean, he's not a fisherman himself. So, like I said, at this point, you guys have a few options of things to go check out. We're not on an actual clock, but sort of, it's going to. I'll sort of update you on the time of day as we go, just as for pacing, and we'll see how it goes. So, just let me know. You guys can talk it out, what you want to do, where you want to go, and we'll go from there.
Thane, this village is small, I believe, from what I have gathered. Is there an obvious place where we could make some sort of emplacement, a defensive structure?
I can do some scouting to see where a good place for that would be.
I will go and deal with the girl.
I'll move to the town hall, see what I can find.
When you go see the girl, perhaps her wounds can give us some indication of what we're facing.
That is
as well
my
as
hope.
the tracks. I'd be interested to know what you two find out.
All right, so I'm just I have my names right here. Rogai is going to. You said Rogai, right?
Rogel.
Rogel, sorry, I typed I even though we had that
50-50.
conversation. Yeah, no, that was my bad. So Rogel, you are going to go see the girl, and at the apothecary. One of you would like to check out the tracks. Basically, we're going to do this in whatever order you guys would like. You can do it all together, separately, whatever. The main thing I will say is that I guess we should have talked about this a little bit before. This is the first time I've run a session quite like this. So the idea is to reward sort of cleverness, as well as monster hunters, you guys are prone and you know that you're supposed to ask a lot of questions and sort of question everything. So I guess just keep that in mind, that you are being paid, but you have no loyalty to these people, as well as the fact that, like you said, I mean, this is a monster and you're here to kill it. So whatever you want to do, my goal is to reward creativity and curiosity, basically. So if you want, we can go to the town center first. You mentioned, I think, that Brandon, was it you that said you were going to the town center?
I was, but if I may, I think we should actually do a little go first, since it's probably going to take a bit longer.
Yeah, that works. So I know that Rogel wanted to go there. Did you guys want to accompany him or go separately? What do you think?
We should all go together. I want to question the the doctor.
For the sake of time, Thane will begin scouting out the town, looking for, defensible positions and things like that, get familiar with the territory.
Yeah, so actually we're going to use this here. This is sort of roughly the town center. I'm screen sharing. I think I'm clicked on me, so hopefully this works. And there's sort of just muddy roads going, between some of the buildings here. Not really anything very official. just tracks. There's a well in the middle. The houses are not very sort of spaced out. You'll see. Okay, so I realized looking at my screen that there's no clue at all what any of these things are. So I'm going to mark it up. So this is the well, and then these things here are houses or storehouses. Most of the buildings basically look the same. The tavern's kind of right here. So it's the city center. This is fairly large. This is obviously not to scale. Otherwise, that well would be about 20 feet across. But just as a rough idea, that's what the town center is going to look like.
What? I'm sorry.
No,
If I can ask, what is the construction of the buildings, the houses and stuff?
So the buildings, let me scroll my notes here. The buildings have mostly flat roofs with uneven brickwork, a few trellises with various plants and things growing on them. And in general, they're fairly squat, mostly brick and wood, and definitely very unelegant or inelegant, I think, actually.
Do they have any structures on the roof, like you know, a chimney for smoke and fire and stuff, or are they just flat and open, pretty much?
So all of them would have chimneys, flat roofs, like I said, but all would have chimneys, likely having fireplaces, especially. It probably gets cold in the winter here. So while they're, disused now and probably clogged and everything, basically there are some stone chimneys coming out of each building. Like I said, the one largest building is the tavern. It's 2 stories, and that also has a chimney. But that's probably the biggest. That has sort of A-frame roof, tilted, basically.
And you said are the buildings kind of close together, or is there a lot of space between them?
There's a lot of space between them. If you stand sort of in the middle of the town at the well, there's a lot of space to each one. So from the well, I'd say each building is about 30 feet. But the buildings are very close to each other. Specifically, there's one way out of the town toward the the coast, where most everybody goes, basically. And so that would be this way. This is to the coast.
How hard? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
How hard would it be to climb one of the buildings near the town center?
It would be extremely easy. Basically, you would make an athletics check on a fairly simple check. You'd be able to hop up there, and some of them you'd even be able to jump from one building to the next.
Yeah, that's when we get to the point of when I'm doing my scouting. That's some of the stuff I want to get into. I don't know at what point we're doing that, but I have like more questions and thoughts and ideas of some things when we get to that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I keep seeing my tablet and it's muted and it scares me. So you guys want to at this point maybe head down to the girl. You can also look around the town center for things like tracks and other clues. It's up to you. There's no real order to these things, but by the end, hopefully you'll have a some idea of what you're dealing with.
So where is the apothecary? I'm never going to say that right.
So I used that word because I didn't think hospital made sense, but you can call it the hospital. It's the alchemist lives there. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. And other days I could normally say the word, and it's just not, my tongue's just not letting me today. But
the
it's really sad because I'm in his guild and have connections and wanted to question him.
So this would be the apothecary.
The alchemist. I can say alchemist. There we go.
Exactly. Alchemist. The alchemist's house where he keeps all his things.
But yeah, it was like, do we know where that is relative to where the tavern is, and do we cut through the middle of town to get there? Would be the
So basically, if you look at my screen, like I said, this here is the apothecary, sort of across from the tavern. That would be here. I really thought I picked red, but it's orange as hell. It doesn't matter. So yes, basically, like I said, you guys can hit the apothecary. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah, that's where I want to go.
Awesome. Okay. So, like I said, the apothecary looks kind of like any other house, but as you draw a little closer, the smells of if you've been in sort of the house or a place where a lot of potions are mixed or things like that, the smell kind of makes it apparent what's going on. Upon entering the small house, you see near countless potions and tinctures and different things lining the walls. While there is sort of a back room that would serve as a bedroom, this is clearly more of a workshop than a living space. In one corner, a dwarf stands with his back to you, sort of carefully mixing some sort of potion, not realizing you come in, probably not expecting anyone. And on the other side is a cot with a young girl lying in it and with bandages around her midsection, sort of soaking up the blood from where she was hurt. As you walk in, probably not sneaking or anything, unless you guys want to try to be quiet. If you just walk in, Fandral pours, one thing into another, and he's kind of looking at it. And like I said, he's a dwarf, and he puts his things down and turns and is startled by it. Ah! Oh, you, sorry. You must be the fellows that were sent. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
And you see inside the house, you see crates, a lot of crates around, and sort of full of straw and a bunch of potions. It's clear that part of what he does here is he mixes potions and he stacks them in these crates to be exported. That's another way the town seems to make money. The girl laying on the cot is seemingly alive, but not moving at all. She seems basically out cold. And Fandral, as you approach, he's taking some of these potions and he's putting some in the just in one of these crates to package up. So, what can I do for you guys?
We need to see the wound.
Okay, well, I must warn you. And he puts some of his things down and begins to walk over to the girl. I'm no real doctor. I work okay with bandages, but there's no guarantee that if I unwrap this wound that it's not going to keep bleeding. So, are any of you doctors, or do you have any maybe field experience?
Sure, I lie.
Okay, all right. So, well, listen, young Susie, she wasn't even supposed to be here, and she means a whole lot to some of the people that live in this town. So, if you could just be careful, but feel free to take a look if you want. But, well, it's pretty serious. And Fandral lets you know that she was hit with some sort of spike in her stomach, and after that, she has not woken up. He or no one else in the town really has enough experience to understand why, but he actually shows you, and he actually pulls out, sort of next to her bed is a small table with a sort of metal bin, and there's a long spike, basically, that resembles a bone. Fairly smooth, but inorganic, and sort of a white color. Like I said, sort of a dirty looking bone. And he picks it up and kind of nonchalantly shows it to you and hands it to you. He's got no idea, but it clearly, it was dangerous once, but it is no longer.
I would step forward and pick up this thing, whatever it might be, this spike. Just kind of wave it around in front of me, try and get the scent of it if there is one, and just kind of get an impression of it. I don't know if I can make some kind of check, like an Arcana check or something, to see if I recognize it.
Yes, if you specifically would give me a nature check, with advantage because you smelled it. But the rest of you, if you're looking at it, a check as well. And Vandrel goes back to sort of doing what he was doing, and specifically, Rogel, you notice our particular scent that you do recognize, and it's one of a poison that's sort of a paralyzing poison, and it very much explains why this girl didn't get up. It's unlikely that it's just caused from her because of her wound, but it very well may be the only thing keeping her alive, because moving around and things without proper care may actually kill her. The rest of you, like I said, you notice that this is a long bone. As monster hunters, you would know that this probably came from a creature, specifically based on the wound and what you were told. It was probably shot out of a creature. Whether or not the poison is from the creature, you're unsure. It doesn't seem like there's any residue, but as I said, there is still a very clear smell, specifically for you, Rogel.
Okay, do I recognize the smell as well? And I have...
Well, I imagine he would probably mention that there was poison involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I would kind of take a whiff, and I would say to the dwarf, "This is poison. Did you not realize? You're an alchemist, no?"
Well, they brought her here. Like I said, I mean, I'm no doctor, and he would take it from you and smell it, and he goes, "But yes, I do recognize that scent. That explains a lot." And he shows you. He says, "We've got all of these potions, and none of them, not a single one, have really helped." And he sort of begins rambling almost nervously, and he says, "It's actually a surprise. These and again, these boxes kind of lined up. One is open with straw coming out of it and bottles in it. He pulls one out, and it's what looks like just a standard healing potion. And he says, I've tried everything that I can, but nothing seems to heal her or wake her up. But it's the weirdest thing. The mayor found a buyer in the town for these health potions. Now, as you guys know, the market is usually flooded by imposters and cheap, watered down sort of BS, if you don't mind my saying. But even this, the quote unquote good stuff, didn't seem to do anything. So I'd be careful if I were you."
I would recommend not using an antitoxin. The stress of her awakening may cause her further injury.
Now, see, that's the kind of thing that really shows me that I'm out of my league. Is there any way one of you could maybe bandage her up a little, or change these bandages? I'm afraid to even touch her at this point. And like I said, none of us really here want to see her die. And he kind of looks to you like, hopefully, all of you, if any of you have experience.
Rogel will shake his head and say, "My skills lie in a different field."
Oh, mine too. I understand how that is. What about the rest of you? I'd really love it if one of you could change your bandages. They were just mercenaries here, a few days off, and well, if the timing had lined up a little better, I think one of them might have been a cleric. So I suppose
I can
not.
take a try at it, but
Well, listen, I'd rather leave her the way she is if you're not sure what you're doing. I mean, I've bandaged up my fair share of small cuts and things, but well, if you're confident. But as I said, none of us really want to see this girl die.
The healing potions that you have used have had no effect. Is that what you said?
No effect whatsoever. And like I said, I mean, these will heal flesh flayed right off your body. usually. But it's like nothing I've seen.
Then I would fear that this girl is beyond our ministrations.
Have you
Oh,
tried
well.
any sort of anti-venom, or has it just been healing potions?
So just healing potions. Like I said, I didn't know before that it was a poison that seemingly was the culprit, but I do believe that and he looks at you, Rogel, and he was about to call you blind and then realizes that might be offensive. He says, your companion was right that maybe waking her up is not the best idea unless one of you can fix her. Yeah, like I said, a few days off. We were lucky enough to have some mercenaries in town when that owlbear came running in, and they ran it off. But like I said, had they stayed maybe 1 or 2 days more, they could have saved this poor girl's life.
Who are these mercenaries?
Oh, I don't know, just a few fellows passing through. Yeah, like I said, lucky to have them with all the animals that seem to be sort of wandering into town lately. I mean, it is a relatively new town, but it seems like a weird behavior for these creatures to do so.
When did the creature start wandering into the town?
Oh, well, and he goes back to sort of mixing potions and packing things up, kind of trying to put his mind off of the girl, and he says, well, I'd say a few weeks back, the occasional badger running into town in the middle of the day, or when some of the fishermen are coming back, they'd maybe run off, a stag that had walked right up to the well. I mean, I'm usually the only one that's here all day, so I was very weird. At first, I suspected that it was simply because, maybe just we built this town sort of in the middle of an otherwise unpopulated area, and then, the fish. Creatures love the fish. I mean, have you tasted the stuff? It's and then there was one day that a raven came and perched atop one of the houses all day. It didn't move once until the fishermen came back.
Did anyone talk to them?
The animals?
Yes, the animals.
Not that I know of. Like I said, I'm usually the only one that's here, so, well, at night at the taverns, I tell these stories, and people tell me I'm crazy. But they all believed it when that owlbear came charging in, and like I said, we were lucky to have those few brave men here to just run and make some noise and scare it off.
When was the town founded? Recently?
Yeah, I'd say it was about 6 months back that people actually started moving in, and a little before that, maybe 6 or 8 months that they built it up. The mayor and someone who knows, I don't know where this money's coming from, they built it. They kind of in the town, they sold spots, the apothecary job opening, definitely a lot of money to be made. That's the main draw. Didn't say anything about monsters, but I imagine that's an unlikely side effect of something like this.
You don't find it odd that animals walk into the town? You don't find that unusual?
Oh, I find it very unusual, but and he looks at some of the crates and he says, well, let's just say that up to this point, it's been worth it until Susie got hurt.
Has there been any disputes? Has anyone come to the village to ask you to move? Has anyone been unhappy with the presence of the town?
No, not that I know of. Yeah, we generally keep to ourselves, and we've really, I can't imagine why they would mind. Otherwise, like I said, an unpopulated area a few miles away from the biggest city. It is a beautiful fishing spot, and maybe somebody else might have wanted it for themselves, but I don't suspect that's the case.
Is the town built on anything? Did they clear a large section of woodland, perhaps move some ancient stones?
As far as I know, no. Like I said, I just took the job offering when they had it, but well, yeah, I'm really not sure.
So
I thought this was y'all's job.
What sort of potions do you make here?
And with that, immediately sort of goes almost into a spiel. Well, I've got everything you need. I don't usually sell right from the distributor, say, but I guess if you've got some coin on you, healing potions and a few antitoxins or things of that sort.
And any
With the writing.
guarantee that they'll work?
Well, I stand behind my products, and certainly these healing potions. Well, they usually work. And he looks over and sort of at the girl and kind of almost ashamed that his life's work, the thing that he's done his whole life, he couldn't save this girl, basically.
And gotta stop the cat from going after the dice. So I'm gonna try and talk shop with him.
Okay.
Because that's my actually that's my background.
Like alchemy, apothecaryism. That's not a word.
Yes. So I chose as a background guild artisan in the pocket. Yeah, alchemist and potion making. And yes, I'm trying to grill him for information, but I'm trying to put him at ease at the same time.
Yeah. So basically, like, what specifically would you like to ask him about? He's very interested in doing whatever he can to let you guys know. He's been told by the mayor to share whatever information he can.
Just in general, what type of potions he's brewing, how much he bottles up, and does he sell it in town, or is he all getting shipped out of town? And
he says he tells you that he sells, or he has been recently making mostly healing potions. He gets the ingredients, the mayor has them brought in, and it literally his job is just mixing them, making them, and despite the fact that it's unusual for the market, they're being sold at a fairly high cost, or at least that's what he's being told.
So they're just taking boxes of this stuff away from you and
giving me money. Yeah. It seems a little too good to be true, but well, when monsters started showing up, like I said, I realized maybe it was.
And the ingredients and the reagents are brought directly to you. They're imported to you so you can make potions to export them.
Yeah, they're brought right in, and I basically just have to mix them together and boil this and then muddle that and then put them together in sort of the right ratio. But they're expensive. Like I said, it's a rare trade to be able to sell health potions at a reasonable cost, unless you're doing so in very large quantities, because like I said, the market's flooded. But I guess the mayor found somebody to sell them to, and well, I didn't ask many questions. Let's put it that way.
Fandral, what kind of reagents are necessary for the creation of a health potion? Anything unusual? Anything rare? Difficult to find?
Nothing really. Just an herb here, and they're usually hard to find, like you said. I mean, they're expensive being imported, but nothing necessarily dangerous that I can think of.
You have been most helpful, Fandral. I'm going to go speak with the mayor.
Oh, well, thank you.
Gnome, if you can find anything else out here, let me know.
Absolutely.
And basically, so, you spoke to him. The mayor is still in the tavern. The day is wearing on a little bit. I'd say it's a little afternoon, maybe 1 or 2, as you come out of the apothecary. And you can still sort of, look around at some of the tracks that may have been left in the town center, as well as go back to the tavern and maybe speak to the mayor.
I want to go look at the tracks in the center around the well in town.
Well, does that sound good, everybody? What about you, Dennis, Brandon?
Well, yeah, while they were talking to the apothecary, I was kind of scouting out the town.
Oh, yeah, good point. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a few things specifically I wanted to look at.
Okay, so basically, if you guys are coming out of the apothecary, maybe to look in the town center, as you walk out, you are almost run into, despite the fact that there's nobody else in the town, by the small gnome that you saw in the tavern. And he kind of bumps into you and he says, "Where the hell did you come from?" Very short, very drunk, balding man. with sort of tattered, dirty clothes. As the mayor told you, this man has been down on his luck. He hasn't been fishing for a while. He seemingly can't make any money at it, despite the fact that everyone else in the town seems to be able to. I said, "Where did you come from?" And again, very drunk, a little overconfident, yelling it at four people, generally larger than him, and just very, very much bravado coming off of this small man.
So, we came from out of town, and you were passed out on the bar.
Passed out? I can hold my drink like the best of them. You shove it up your arse there, old man. And he begins walking away.
And I'll switch to Gnomish and call him a drunken old sot.
And he stops and turns around. I don't personally know Gnomish, but he responds to you in Gnomish. And he says, "You've got no idea, young man." And he sort of stares at you, suddenly more serious. And he says to the rest of you in common, "You've got no idea what's going on in this town."
That's what we're here to find out.
They say they catch these fish in the bay. I don't think that's true. I catch the fish and I bring them in, and well, nobody cares. Nobody wants to buy them. I took out a very large loan to come be a part of this little venture, but well, it's not going very well. So my money now just goes to the innkeeper. At least somebody's making money.
So where do you think the fish are coming from if they're not coming from?
That's a damn good question. Truly, I've got no idea. Who knows? Maybe they're importing from somewhere. There's something about this town. I'm just not sure what it is.
And can I tell if he's a rock or a forest gnome?
He would be a forest gnome. You'd be able to tell.
Yeah, well, I'm a forest gnome, so I'm just...
Gnome, let me buy you a drink. I'd like to have a chat.
Another drink? Well, that sounds good to me. You haven't any on you, right? I don't feel comfortable speaking with all the, ears around. He says, talking as though there are a lot of people, but he knows in the bar there will be a few.
I'll say to him, I will go and purchase a bottle of wine. Is that your preference? And I will follow you to your abode.
Oh, sounds good to me. Make sure you get that good stuff. I saw them importing today. I'm right over here. I'll meet you. And he sort of walks to one of the houses and stumbles as he walks up the wooden steps, falls face first, but kind of shakes it off and stands up and crawls and opens the door of his house. She leaves it open and kind of face first in the main living area. So without much sort of to do, you go and you buy this bottle of wine. It's relatively expensive for what it is, but being of your profession, you've got no problem buying it. And
is the mayor in here?
The mayor is, yes, he's in.
Yeah, so I'll go up and I'll kind of politely buy the bottle or whatever, and I'll just then turn and walk unerringly, like moving definitely aside of chairs, even though it looks as though I can't see. Just like putting aside the facade of blindness immediately and just like walking in a beeline towards the mayor, and I'll sit at the table with him.
Would the rest of you like to follow him, or are you waiting, or what would you like to do? Basically, did everybody waltz in here, or where are you?
Craig would be outside just walking around, sort of just examining the ground, looking for potential traces of tracks. Some of you guys had already looked for tracks while I was gone. Or anything like that.
So that's fair. So as Rogel and maybe a few others, it's up to you guys, are going in and buying this bottle of wine, you begin to sort of take stock of the town center. Like I said, it's a small clearing with a few squat houses. The Bloody Gill, the tavern, is the largest building in town. It's 2 stories, sort of enormous in comparison to the rest of the buildings. Mostly flat roofs, uneven brickwork, and a few trellises, and the full splendor of the town can kind of be seen right from the middle. The town seems deserted, like I said, and being sort of such a young town, you realize it's probably just mostly people working at the sea. Even from here, you can kind of see down the hill, still out to the sea, where a few fishing boats are out there. So if you'd like, somebody or all of you can do some survival checks for to look at some of the tracks, or if you have any specific questions about anything in the town center.
Well, I'm going to stick around with the gnome and make sure he doesn't go running off any place. I mean, he said he'll be right here, but that he doesn't.
Yes. The gnome is snoring softly on the floor of his house. There's a small area rug, and you mean the drunk one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's lying there on the ground, basically sort of snoring, a little bit of drool, and if this were a cartoon, there'd be a large snot bubble kind of inflating and deflating as he breathes in and out. So as for the survival check, Brandon, you see the fresh tracks of the comings and goings of all the people that have left the town. They were clearly left by the fishermen heading out for the coast. Lots of normal human tracks with a few carts that probably went with them. As well as the obvious tracks of the small town, another set of tracks can be seen. A few days old, leading off into the light trees about 50 feet from the town. As well as these large tracks that the mayor has mentioned, the very large tracks of this monster. Specifically, the very large tracks look. You aren't sure, but the foot tracks of these of the creature, you can tell that it walks on all fours and seemingly has hands and claws as big as what you might think might be a dragon, a young dragon. You don't suspect for other reasons that it is a dragon based on what all the people have told you, but about as large and walking on 4 legs. Those tracks, while very old, you can still kind of catch glimpses of them. They were so deep that even now, where people may not have walked, you can see them. And they seem to wander around the town sort of in circles. Where the tracks are near buildings, some light claw marks can be seen in the wood and brickwork, but not necessarily slashing, more like almost as though something was searching, kind of like a raccoon when a raccoon digs through the trash. Did you want to say something? Because there is a little bit more because you got a 20.
You pretty much answered every question I had, but you can keep going.
So the other thing you notice is you also, specifically based on what the alchemist said, you also notice some owlbear tracks. It's, you can kind of almost track where it went based on the fact that the way it walked. And it didn't seem to do much in the town. Like you said, it came and it was run off, probably not even killed by the mercenaries. But it too sort of left some scratches and things, just like monsters kind of scurrying around. Not necessarily, none of it seems malicious necessarily. But there is one thing. You pick up a spiked object from the ground, similar exactly to the one that you saw that punctured the girl, Susie.
All right. I don't think I have any questions, actually. That description effectively covered every question I was going to ask.
I worked hard on it. Yeah. Sort of as a meta moment, like I said, I'm running this game for the first time, and this style of game. I've never really done something like this, so I'm trying to strike a balance between letting you ask questions and sort of having stuff prepared for when you roll, but I feel like that's the thing that needs the most work. That felt a little bit like an info dump. But like you said, it answered your question. So I'm like, do I withhold it and try to see if you ask, or do I just give it to you?
It's a tricky one, definitely.
Exactly. So, and I I know that that's big in like Numenera. You know, I've seen you run games, and I've played in one before, and I'm like, I realize now sort of how fickle, or rather how thin that line is of like, hey, do I tell them everything because they rolled high or so? All that said, there is one more thing that you see. Any of you, you know, that might even look at some of the buildings, you'd notice that there are holes in the buildings, sort of all at the same level, and there are holes that look like they would fit perfectly these spines in them. Now, all of the spines that you imagine would be there have been taken out. The holes have been sort of covered up and, you know, patched. But it's clear that, you know, something is causing. But with that, is there anything else you guys want to sort of look at or, you know, think about in the town center, or we're going to go back to the tavern where they're getting the wine and talking to the mayor?
I think I'm good. Anyone else?
Well, I
If the
wanted to.
gnome if the gnome is like safely passed out, and I want to look around for, you know, any just small woodland creatures, rats, squirrels, whatever. They mentioned badgers wandering through the center of town for no apparent reason.
So can you give me a what is it? Nature check, I guess. I don't remember what the skill is called. But Dennis, what were you going to say?
Yeah, specifically in the town center, one of the things I wanted to do is check out the well, how deep it was, how wide it is, and wanted to look at potentially putting some kind of perch down in the well that I could hide in and like pop out of.
Yeah, absolutely. So the well is fairly wide, you know, like about 5 feet across. It's about 4 feet tall. You know, the brick, and then as far as how far it goes down, you can't really tell by looking. There is a bucket on there, and you can sort of, you know, you could potentially lower it down to see, but generally you can tell from both experience and just looking in there in the light of the day that you certainly wouldn't want to fall in.
Right.
There's one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. There's one thing I want to do while we're here. I'm going to take a look around and see if there's potentially any herbs that might be growing in the area that might attract something like a bugbear.
Yeah, so we're going to cover all of these things. We'll start with the thing you mentioned, Dennis, specifically. If you wanted to get to work sort of making this perch, I imagine if you have really any of these sort of adventurer's kits that come with most characters, or, you know, if this is a thing you do often, with some, you know, climbing spikes and some bits of wood, you could certainly make a little hidey hole inside of the well to hang out in, you know, when the monster does eventually come. So you kind of get to work on that, and, you know, you're pretty good at it, so we won't worry about rolling. You've got plenty of time so far. As for the woodland creatures, you just see normal creatures. Like I said, from the edge of town, there's about 50 feet, and then there's light trees. It's not a dense forest, but there's light trees that comes into sort of eventually dense forest. But generally, the animals seem to be acting normally. And then there was one more question, and you asked, oh, herbs. Can you give me a? Oh, you did. Oh, actually, Brandon, can you give me sort of a survival check, I guess? So with a 16, you can look around, and in general, there are mostly just weeds. Something else you would notice is on the trellises, you know, there's just sort of normal flowers. Maybe one of them has some sort of grapes on it. Overall, nothing really sticks out to you, and nothing seems like it would, you know, act as something that's attracting these things. So with that, did you guys want to join them in the tavern? We can go back there. Any more questions? What do you think?
What's the time? How close is it to night?
So I'd say it's wearing on into the evening. You know that sunset will be around probably 8 or 9 o'clock, because it's kind of summer is starting. So I'd say it's about 5 or 6. I mean, you've still got a little bit of time, but, you know, maybe a few more hours.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna head back into the tavern. All right.
The other thing I wanted to do is, once I'm able to complete that little perch, the hidey hole in the well, I believe you said it was the tavern that's 2 stories.
Yeah, the tavern is the only 2-story building without a flat.
Okay, so what I would like to do is using that. How high is it to the 2nd floor? Would my 50-foot rope be long enough to reach?
Yeah, that would be plenty. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know exactly how tall it is, but it's normal 2 stories, so I don't know, 25 feet.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I want to secure the rope on the roof so that I can use it to, get up and down if I need to, and kind of set up a perch up there as well. Because from what it looks like, that's a kind of a good view over the town center. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it doesn't take you very long while some of the other people are looking around and maybe tracking stuff. You tie the rope, and mostly the people in the town, the very few people that are there won't really bother you. You're kind of doing your thing. So, yeah, you definitely are able to do that. And anyone would be able to use that with a climb check, assuming that they could make it.
Yeah, and then I guess once that was completed, then I would go ahead and actually head down into the tavern.
Yeah, sounds good. And at this point, maybe I imagine this was kind of happening when other people were doing some of their stuff. So at this point, this would be right when Rogel is walking in and getting the wine, and everyone else is joining him. So is it safe to say that all of you have basically sort of gone back to the tavern to reconvene a little bit? Which one of you would you say has the spine, and do you put it away or do you hold it out? The one that was found on the ground, you found a second one. I think it would have been you, Brandon, that probably picked it up.
Yeah, it was me.
So like I said, it's up to you. Would you, wave it with abandon? Would you show your companions? Would you sort of bring it in? Would you hide it? What would you do?
I'm just going to tuck it into my belt.
Okay. So Rogel, you sat sort of across from the mayor, and he sees you all come back in. He knows that the day is wearing on, and he says, "Oh, it's good to see you. Have you figured out the mystery yet? It's going to be time soon to be boarding my own home up. So, well, Godspeed, gentlemen. Is there something else I can do for you?"
Yes, indeed. We're working on it, Mayor. And I'll take the wine and uncork it, and I'll pour a little tiny bit into the glass for him to taste. Will you join me for a drink?
Yeah, sure. I mean, with this wine, I could never say no.
Excellent. I'll fill up his glass and then my own, and I'll say, so you make a good profit on the potions, it seems.
Oh yes, you spoke to the apothecary, Fandral. Yes. Yeah. I know a guy, and he knows a guy, and well, you know how that sort of thing is. That guy likes to give us money for them.
Interesting. And these reagents that you require to make these potions, those are surely hard to acquire. Is it not expensive to ship them out here into the middle of nowhere as opposed to into a city?
Based on what we're able to sell the potions for, it's worth it. It is very expensive, yes, mind you, but we still come out on top in it. We come out in the black, and I think that's really what's important. Does this have anything to do with the monster?
Possibly. I'll ask the questions.
Can you roll an insight for me, Lloyd?
Certainly. Okay, that is a 15.
So you can tell that the mayor is a little nervous. Not sure if he's nervous because 4 guys walked in and you're blind and sitting across from him, or if he's nervous for some other reason. But in general, he's a little less happy-go-lucky than he was before. But it could just be that the night is coming.
I'll lean forward, kind of capitalizing on his nervousness, and I'll say, those mercenaries that were here a few days ago, did you hire them?
Oh, those, no. That was just a happy accident, with the animals that were wandering into town. But like I said, nothing serious, but, they can run off the occasional badger or whatnot. It was quite helpful.
And where are they now?
Well, I imagine I imagine they left. They were just passing through. It was sort of a new settlement, and we are on the way to the big city. And well, we've got this new wine. I had them in here tasting it. Well, they left with 2 cases, so you could say that went well.
Interesting. And tell me, when you built this place, what did you build it on top of?
Well, we came and surveyed the area, and there wasn't really, anything here. I mean, there was a small clearing. We certainly got rid of some trees, but we discovered that there was, sort of special fish that were found here and rarely other places. So, and he begins to stutter a lot more as he sort of is just becoming more and more nervous.
Indeed. And did you have any warnings about this place? Did anyone come to you to ask you not to hunt these fish?
No, of course not. In fact, it was mostly a secret anyway. Not really very many people knew that we were even doing it. And he kind of gulps back the wine that you've given him and takes a breath.
I'll mutter an incantation under my breath, and I'll cast prestidigitation. So my eye holes will begin to glow a little bit, and I'll say, "Do you know that I can see when you're lying? Do you know that I can smell it?"
Listen, the monster's going to be here soon, and I would appreciate it if you would, well, go take care of that. I'm paying you very well,
When the mayor begins to stutter and begin obviously acting hinky, Thane will remain quiet, but he'll move to stand just behind Rogel, his leathered palms resting on the hilt of his blades as his shadowed gaze falls on the mayor to observe him as well.
I'm going to ask you again, Mayor. When you began hunting these fish, was there any warning given? Did anyone ask you to stop? What about this raven that came to watch the settlement for a full day? What about the animals that have been walking into the town? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that odd?
Oh, it's very suspicious, but you've got to break a few eggs to make the kind of money that we're making. The kind of money to hire monster hunters, not the kind that come in and asking all kinds of questions, but the kind that come and they take care of the problem and they leave because that's their job.
Monsters are not only beasts of the wild; they also take the form of corrupt politicians at times.
Well, you went and saw young Susie, and you saw what happened to her. And I really think that you really ought to be careful because, well, if that monster comes and you can't take care of it, what happens then? And he's very much trying to deflect the conversation.
Yeah. Craig just kind of chuckles a bit, and he's just like, "You're going to really berate the mayor right now. What we need to be worried about is that beastie that's going to be coming in here soon. Honestly, if he's doing anything illegal or otherwise, it's no concern of ours. He's paying us. Let's get the job done."
There are no coincidences, Crag. A typically reductive statement by you. There are no coincidences. It is all connected, I am certain. And this mayor is up to something that has led to the death, perhaps, of this girl. I think that would weigh quite heavy on someone's conscience, don't you, Mayor?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, we love young Susie here, and it's a terrible business with the whatever the hell it was that stuck her. But the poison. Eventually we might get someone here that could figure it out, and that might be able to figure out what happened to her.
Interesting, Mayor. I never mentioned that there was a poison in the wound, and the apothecary did not know that fact until we went to speak with him.
Wow. Yeah, well, but she wasn't waking up, so I mean, I think that it's a fair coincidence, or not coincidence, but assumption that maybe that it was poisoned, and I don't know.
Rogel will lean back and he'll turn to his right again and talk to something next to him that's not there, and he will say, "No, I don't think that's necessary. No, I don't think that's, no, I don't." And then his eyes will light up red and he will say, "Speak, mortal, do not lie."
Is there any mechanics associated with that, or are you just...
No, it's just prestidigitation again.
That's fair. Just making sure. So he, stops and his eyes widen, and he's sort of staring into the face of this, what, could be anything at this point, some demon god, some terrible thing. And he's staring at you and he says, listen, the girl wasn't supposed to be hurt, okay? It's not, you don't understand. You should just do your job and get out of here and not worry about what happens in little towns, okay? Something that I wanted to say, we're going to take another meta moment here because I feel like your character would be smart enough to do this. Brandon, you have the spine. And what I want you to do is, despite the fact that it's a little bit DM intervention, what I want you to do for the sake of the story is I want you to take it out and inspect it, and the rest of you as well. So if you guys could roll a nature check for me, or in general, maybe investigation on it. Yes, very much killing it. So the important thing that you note about this particular spine is that it seems to be devoid of poison. Sort of in terms of the story, you probably would have noticed this before when you picked it up or when you showed it to your compatriots, but I missed it in my notes. So that's why I interjected it here and now, because it kind of made sense.
Oh, good. I will kind of lean back in the chair and the eyes will go out, and I'll I didn't want that to happen, Mayor. I didn't want that to happen. Sometimes I cannot control him. It's best that you speak quickly and tell me the truth of this matter before he returns.
Listen. So the girl was poisoned, and she well, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Susie. And the mayor, he gets up and he tries to leave. He does his best. So he quickly stands up and he sort of makes a run for the door. And I know a few of you were sort of ready, so whatever you'd like to do in that case.
This poor guy.
Okay, as he gets up, is he wearing a cloak by any chance?
He is, yeah. He's got sort of it's even more of a cape. It's sort of a little more fancy than that. It is the sort of thing that a bureaucrat with way too much money would wear.
All right, so effectively, I'm going to, as he goes to leave, as he stands up, I'm going to step over and I'm just going to put my hand on his chest, push him back down to the table, take the spike and drive into his cloak and pin his cloak to the table. Since my friends don't seem to want to let this go, you're going to stay and talk to them.
And sort of somewhat defeated, sort of a fat man against four strapping individuals, he stops and he sits down again, and he says, "Listen, I have money. I have a lot of money. We can make this okay. I just need you to kill the monster." And he begins to reach into his cloak. And I imagine one or more of you might immediately reach to your weapons, and he does the movie, like, kind of puts his hand up like, "No, don't worry," and he pulls out a small vial, and he says, "The antidote for the poison. I'm sorry." And he hands it over to he kind of probably puts it on the table, and leaves it in a very tense situation.
Why did you poison the girl?
She knows too much. I'm sorry, they'll kill me if I tell you.
I will kill you if you don't tell me, and I will not make it quick.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but were we
Yeah,
paid in advance for this?
No, you were not paid in advance, but you will. The idea is that you'll get paid afterward.
But not if we kill the guy that hired us.
Exactly.
Take what he said.
So
We find out where his money is first.
the most important thing is, that it's your job to come and dispose of the monsters, but in general, you have sort of what we'll call a parent company. I called it the Monster Hunters Guild before. It's kind of a nebulous thing that people you work for. no matter what, you'll get paid. Is something that you would know, is whether they come to the town and find the mayor's money or whatever. There's things in place to make sure you get paid.
All right, that's good to know.
And so he says,
So the payment is in escrow, basically.
more or less, yeah. I mean, that's actually a better idea. Like I said, I kind of came up with this on the fly, so maybe that's a better way to do it. Is he, posts the money or gets it some way, and
Well, it sounds like they contact and pay the organization, and then they send us, and we get paid by the company.
Yeah,
as long as
that
we-
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
We're gonna edit that
Right.
the next time. So that makes more sense. So basically, there's no concern that you won't be getting. So the mayor then tells you a story very nervously. And he sits down and he says, "So what I've told you about this town is not entirely true. Well, it's not the fish in the bay. That's sort of a cover. These fishermen, we send them out and we send them back, and we buy the fish from them just to keep up appearances. But, well, maybe you should just come with me and I'll show you." And he kind of looks to you guys to see if he decides to stand up, if you'll let him, more or less. Dennis, you mentioned that you wanted to look closer at this spine, and if you give me a nature check, we can basically give me a nature check. I was about to tell you how D&D worked. So with a nature 17, based on the rest of the clues that you found, it seems reasonable that whatever this creature is able to, as a defense mechanism, shoot these spines out of its body. Based on what the mayor is telling you, and something that will become clear further along, is that they aren't poisoned, but that it is in general something that happens, and that is the same reason that you've seen these holes and these sort of divots in some of the things around town. So as monster hunters, you know that that's going to be something you have to combat.
Right. About what height on the buildings did we notice this damage from the spines?
They're about 3 feet high, and like I said, they're generally sort of constant height. They're roughly around the same height, and you imagine that based on the size of this creature that you've been told, it's larger than a bear, that they probably shoot out from its body, in a sort of in a spray.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Unless you have any more questions about Spike, as he's examining the Spike, I'm just going to walk up to him, stick on my hand. I like that Spike back. I plan to return it to the beastie that sent it flying.
Yeah, after I've examined it and gleaned information, I'll hand it over.
Sounds good. So like I said, the mayor at this point is attempting to stand up and lead you off somewhere. What do you guys do?
I will say, if you lead us into a trap, know that you will die first.
Listen, we're far beyond that. Trust me, it's nothing like that. Just make sure the girl is safe. And he, stands up and tries to walk, and forgets that his cape is sort of. Oh, actually, no, because you were examining the spike, so I imagine maybe it was pulled out. So he walks away, and when he opens the door to the tavern, you realize that the sun is setting, and he immediately becomes even more nervous. But understanding the situation that he's in, he leads you over to more or less what is sort of the last. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I add real quick. Yeah, as everyone begins moving to the door, I'm going to lay a hand on Rogel's shoulder and lean close to whisper that I will be close, and I will let the others get a lead. And once we get outside, I'm going to try to basically shadow them, but stealthily, a little distance back.
Yeah,
being
perfect.
prepared for ambush and whatnot.
Yeah. So if you give me your stealth check in the or in the chat, I'll take note of it. Was
And I'll
somebody else
grab
going
a
to say
bottle of
something?
wine before we go. While we're
Okay, yeah.
standing.
Sounds good. And in fact, I imagine that Philly is nowhere to be seen. She's probably gone back to her own home or in the back room of the tavern, wherever she lives. So you actually just take it from, a crate that's near the bar, and the mayor doesn't stop. So
Right.
yeah, so you guys, the mayor takes you out. Like I said, the sun is setting. It's not very long until nightfall, but there's no real indication of when, this creature may show up. And so you walk out, and the mayor leads you across the way to back to red. He leads you from the tavern up to this one. Oh man, can't use the brush tool. That layer's hidden. He leads you from the tavern over to here, in the storehouse. So the storehouse has sort of two large or double doors and a very large lock on it. And he, pulls out his keys, and he's very fumbling. He drops them sort of in the mud, and he struggles around to finally gets them. And he tries one key and another. He's like, damn it. And he opens it, and he unlocks it, and pulls the chain off and kind of drops it. And he opens one of the doors, but pulls it out so that he doesn't go in first, basically. So he opens one of these double doors, and he stands there, and he says, oh, this is what we're hiding in the town of vinder. And it's dark, so difficult to see in there. It's becoming dark. There are no lights in there. It's fairly shadowed.
I'll push him in first.
Can you give me a strength check?
I can try.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. So he's a fairly big fellow. So we're actually gonna do opposed.
Right, more of a nudge, I guess. I'm gonna try and see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a disaster. It's a 4 from me.
Okay, he got a 16. So if you try and pull on him or push him, he kind of resists and says, "Listen, no, I'd rather not."
As he pushes him, I'm gonna walk up behind the gnome, and just as he pushes him, I'm gonna then push him even harder, just to reinforce the point and go for that strength.
Sounds good. Can you give me a strength check as well?
Just one sec.
And John, I see that you have night vision, so if you look in there. So what did you get?
15.
Okay, so with a 15, and it sounds like a few of you have some special things you can see. You kind of throw him in to this storehouse, and immediately, as he enters, and if you enter after him, you begin to smell something like rotting fish, and you seeing in sort of in the dim light, you see you can't really make it out, but there is a creature on a slab, sort of bound up with hooks coming out of it. You can see these chains going to the ceiling, face down. And beyond that, you can't really tell what else is going on. Based on what you can see, though, and the fact that he walked in and kind of, he stumbles in, probably falls and walks, it doesn't seem like it's a trap or that anything's going to jump out at you.
So sorry, I missed that. Is creature is up on hooks? Some sort of creature?
Sort of, yeah. So this creature is face down on a sort of slab, like a large concrete slab, but there are hooks in the creature suspending it a little bit above.
Okay. What does it look like?
So upon walking in, you immediately recognize this creature to be a very large mermaid. You see that there are bits of the sort of non-human portion that have been cut and bandaged and otherwise flayed. But you also see in the same room countless healing potions, the bottles, both full and empty all around. And as you walk in, the creature begins struggling.
So I'm just piecing this together. So they've got this mermaid, and they're healing it with the healing potions and mining it for food. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm thinking. And just say to the mayor, why? Doesn't even taste that good.
And while I'm laughing, the mayor does not think that's funny. He, at this point, he's looking at you with the sobering look of a man that is sort of really screwed up. He says to you in a very small, no longer confident voice, the money was, it was so good. They just said I had to bring her here. That they didn't say it wasn't supposed to happen this way.
Dragon sickness.
And what I need you guys to do is everyone give me a perception check. Dennis, specifically, if, like you said, you're outside keeping an eye out, I want you to give me one with advantage.
Awesome.
So you all did relatively well. And Dennis, you will have just a moment to probably cry out, maybe 10 seconds to cry out as from behind the storehouse, the monster comes running around to the open doors and crashes through the large double doors. And roaring at you, looks around and immediately just chomps down on the mayor, bites him clear in half. And I need everyone to roll initiative.
I'm actually not going to cry out because I don't want to give my hiding position away.
That's fair.
So I can use my ambuscade to get my pre-initiative sneak attack.
Sounds good. So we have Floyd with a 21 here. Hope you guys keep rolling this well. So just for any viewers that are here, the initiatives are 20, 21, 23, and 13. Now, granted, everyone knew they were going to fight a monster or a creature of some sort, so I imagine they took combat and initiative-based skills. But damn, son. So we have Dennis, Lloyd, John, and Brandon. Thank you. That is awesome. So you don't cry out, but this creature comes barreling in, and what do you call it? Do any of you have anything that allows you to not be surprised? I know the Blood Hunter specifically had something like that, but basically this thing's. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the ambuscade, like I said, it's a pre-initiative attack. Now, if I would normally be surprised, I would not be surprised. I can basically spend that not to be surprised, so I don't get the extra attack, but I'm not surprised.
So you will actually get a surprise round against it anyway, because you were keeping a lookout. You don't have to spend that or anything. You'll just get that round. But more or less, everyone else will act after the monster. But on the creature's turn, like I said, the creature sort of roars, turns, and chomps down on the mayor. Now, I'm going to tell you two things. One, this is not a monster that exists in D&D. It's a monster that I've entirely made up. So sadly, I can't find an easy picture for you, or otherwise, it's not that simple. The other thing I want to mention is that I'm going to try and describe it, and this is going to be to mixed results because I tried drawing it a few times, but I'm no artist, so that's not going to go well. But you see a creature come around, or rather break through the doors, and its head is a skull, but like a very large raven skull. It is both organic and it sort of has a a little bit of an exoskeleton, but it's not bug-like. So imagine sort of a necrophage from Witcher 3 if you've seen it, but very large, runs on all fours, very large hands. Otherwise, basically imagine a dragon, but instead of a dragon's head, it's sort of a large, long skull. And you could see some of the muscle coming out of it, as well as on its back. Like I said, it has bones, more or less a large rib cage that seems like it's coming out of its back, all the way down, rather than spines or something. So it's kind of slick with slime. You see some of the spines that are probably going to shoot out at you, as you know they will. And like I said, it roars and just chomps the mayor right in half. So with that, Dennis, you go first because you get a surprise round on the creature.
Yeah, for the surprise round, basically, I will. Well, first, so I know what to do. Where is this storeroom in location and compared to the location of the well and the tavern? So north of the well is where the storehouse is.
You're muted, James.
Yeah, I was explaining that whole time, and I looked up, and again, I scared myself because my tablet was muted, but I'm a dummy. So we're going to go back over that. So the tavern's here, where your rope is. The storehouse is here. The monster came around from this way. These houses are flat, or this is the apothecary, but, basically all these flat roofs that you can, with an athletic check, climb upon and jump between. And then the well is in the middle, where, your sort of perch is that you've created in there, Dennis.
How far is the well from where I'm at?
So I would say that roughly from the well to the storehouse and the well to whichever one of these houses you're on, these are all about 40 feet. So roughly, if the well is the center, all the buildings are, we can say, about 40 feet, a little bit outside of what you would run, but a little bit inside of what you could say shoot with a crossbow or a spell.
Okay, well, with my longbow, then I would be able to reach. Is it all the way inside, though? Am I going to be able to see it?
It's sort of half in, half out. It kind
Okay.
of ran, and one of the doors was open, and it smashed both of them, and splinters kind of flew everywhere. But your turn is actually happening when it was coming out. But for cinematic purposes, it did all of its stuff first.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, yeah, even if there was parts sticking out, basically its flank, I will take a shot with my longbow.
Yeah. So just let me know what you get on your attack, and we'll go from there.
I'll take it. I got 22 on my to hit.
So that definitely hits. As we've talked about, we're definitely getting really good rolls. So give me some damage.
Okay. Should actually compared with the D8. Sorry.
So to the rest of you, would any of you have any telepathic experience in any of your pasts? Otherwise, maybe Lloyd, I could see a warlock having some sort of something like that. Anything that would be that would deal with spirituality or otherwise sort of reaching out to creatures in that sense.
Yeah, I'm packed with the fiend, so I think I've communed with demons to some extent, or devils rather, I guess.
Yeah, so more or less, you'd be used to having something in your head. I just wanted to sort of tuck that information away for later, so I didn't have to ask if it comes up. So damage. What'd you hit, Dennis?
10 points of damage.
Awesome.
And I will use my skirmisher stealth to remain hidden from the creature using my bonus action.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I have to roll stealth again, but it gives me the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. So basically, when you have to do that, so go ahead and roll that, but just keep me updated when you want to do that and things. It'll be relatively easy in this case because the monster's very distracted with a lot of other things right now. Awesome. So yeah, you remain hidden from the monster, and as long as you keep hitting numbers like 21, that will not be a problem. So with that 10 hit points, the monster comes running around almost faster than you can imagine, even as someone that maybe was expecting it. A night has fallen now, and it comes around, and as it's rounding, an arrow from your longbow comes and hits it right in sort of the flank between these two rib bones sticking out of it. Or kind of on top of it, more or less, and then everything else happens. It runs in and grabs the mayor and kind of shakes him around like the T-Rex from. I almost said the T-Rex from Star Wars. The T-Rex from Jurassic Park. The T-Rex from Star Wars, guys. What movie did you?
The famous scene with the T-Rex.
Yeah,
huh?
the one.
The T-Rex with the lightsabers. Yeah, I remember that. He was a badass.
Yeah.
So with that, it is actually your turn, Dennis, because that was your surprise round, and now it's your turn because you rolled two higher than everyone else with a 23, I think.
Yeah. So since I'm currently hidden from it still, I'm not going to act because I want to use my bonus action. I'm going to summon my spirit companion, my dire wolf. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll do for my turn.
Sounds good. So what does that look like, and where does it happen? Because I imagine something like that would get the attention of this creature. If
Yeah,
it's like loud
basically-
or bright or something.
Yeah, it appears, it kind of shimmers at first, very ethereal. But when it finishes appearing, it'll look very much like it does in my overlay. It'll be jet black, very large. It's a large-sized creature. I imagine that it has to be summoned near me, but I would think probably not on the roof for obvious reasons. I don't think there'd be even enough space. So probably in front of the building where I'm at is where I'll summon it.
That's fair, and with that, the creature ran through, and it probably takes note of this, but doesn't necessarily make that clear or otherwise turn or anything. So if that is your turn, then we move on to Rogel. I would say you are, roughly 5 feet from this creature at this point. He's mostly blocking the door, but based on the fact that he made a large hole, you could probably get by him if you wanted to.
So Rogel sees the kind of explosion of action, and he begins to shake his head, and he starts saying, "No, no, 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 no!" And then his eyes will glow, and he'll let out of one eye, go, as he'll float about a foot off the ground. He's very kind of withered and old looking, but now he just has this sort of radiance about him, and his voice has two sort of different octaves to it, and he begins swirling his hands around. Incanting in some sort of foul, rumbly language, and he's going to try and cast a spell at this creature. And that is a 14 plus 6 to hit, so a 20 to hit.
Yes, definitely hits. So
okay, it is
damage.
Ray of Enfeeblement, which means that the target deals half damage with weapon attacks that use strength until the spell ends. And at the end of each of its turns, you can make a con save to remove the spell from it.
Sounds good, but that doesn't happen the first time, so no matter what, he gets...
Yeah, for this turn, he's got half damage if he uses strength-based attacks.
And what's the spell save? I'm sorry.
So it's just a hit. So the first time I hit, it's automatic, but then in future, it's Constitution.
That's what I mean. What do I have to hit for to sort of unenfeeble myself?
14.
14. I just want to write it down, and I'm going to forget to make that on the next turn.
That's my hope.
So is there anything else you want to do? You shoot this at him, and go ahead.
I will move away, float backwards away from the thing, up to my speed, 30 feet, as far as I can get.
So if you float backward, you will, in about 20 feet, hit the back of this storehouse.
Okay.
So you're away from him, but you're still a little bit in an enclosed space. Well,
that's
relatively enclosed.
As long as I'm behind Crag, I feel like I'm okay.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And yes, Dennis, sort of, you guys sort of convened, and everybody knows about the climbing on the roofs and the rope and everything. Basically, tactically, you guys all work very well together. You've done this before. So any of you that do want to climb on roofs and anything crazy like that's been set up or otherwise you want to try, let me know. Otherwise, this monster's going to wreck your face. So next is John.
Right. And so he just busted through the door in on the whole bunch of us.
Yeah.
I guess it's just going to be to him.
So everybody, I remember that Brandon and Lloyd sort of shoved him through. I think you were around there. Would you have gone in with them? Would you have been outside? What were you doing when they were kind of messing with the monster?
Well, I was outside looking into the dark warehouse at the whole mermaid sushi setup that
Yeah, so basically they walked in, so I imagine you would have been a little bit outside of it. So I'd say you're outside the building, roughly 10 feet from where the monster blasted through the doors.
And how big's the monster?
The monster is roughly the size of sort of a young dragon without wings. I'd say it's about as tall as the storehouse. So, I mean, you're talking about 10 feet tall and just real thick. This thing is huge. If that's a size class, it's not actually that. I don't know what size class is.
No, I think huge actually is. I'm just trying to, yeah.
As for size class, it's large. It's about as big as sort of, you know, like I said, maybe a dire bear, or if a dire bear got a little bit bigger.
I'm just trying to get used to the idea that I'm actually small because I'm a gnome.
Actually, that's a good point. So remember any of those things that come in place, because he is certainly, I think, what, 2 above you. You know, this thing is huge. I know that some small creatures get bonuses for being tiny.
But okay, I am going to head for the rooftops, as the case may be.
Yeah, sounds good. So you have 2 options. Basically, you are here. Let's see. The storehouse is here, roughly. This may not look like the same one as before, so just bear with me. Storehouse is here. Monster crashed through. You were about here. So you have more or less 2 choices. You can climb the rope to go up on the tavern, or you can potentially climb on the storehouse, as safe as you think that is, or you can go to one of the other buildings.
I'll climb the storehouse.
Okay, so you're going to go on top of the storehouse. What I need is an athletics check from you to climb on sort of these uneven bricks. Relatively easy, but still able to be failed in the eyes of or near this monster.
Okay. Now, I don't particularly have athletics, so it just...
Yeah, so I think it's just strength. That's strength ability, right?
Yeah,
is that
that's
one climbing?
strength.
I'm sorry, I'm the worst DM you've ever had.
I don't know. I have acrobatics, but I don't have athletics. So
I think acrobatics is fine.
I can roll for it, but I have proficiency in acrobatics.
I'd say acrobatics.
Give me acrobatics. That is what I should have been saying the whole time.
Okay, natural 20. So that's a 26. So I don't even know if I touched the wall on the way up.
Yeah, you scurry up this thing, no question. Like as though the world had turned and gravity were, putting you on this wall. No problem. You climb on top, and you are now, sort of above this thing that's half in, half out the door.
Okay, and then I'll try and get in position. He went through the door, but he's not like ripping out the walls or anything at this point. So the building seems...
No, he's like half in, like this.
Yeah,
but the building is mostly made of stone, but the top half is wood. So say this monster jumped on it or climbed on top of it, it would start to fall apart pretty quick.
Oh, absolutely. You move into position like closer over him.
Yeah. And then do you want to make an attack? What would you like to do?
I would like to envenom my rapier.
Okay. So that sounds good to me. I imagine you can tell me what that looks like, or otherwise, you pull something out and then pour it on there. Is it a thing you wipe on? What do you think?
Heck. It's froze.
What's that? Okay, so he might be having a little bit of trouble. But as far as I know,
Yes.
Okay, so if you climb up and you envenom your rapier, I imagine that's your turn, unless that's some sort of bonus action. And we could move on to the monster's turn. Does that sound about right? I think I'm going to go with that. If he comes back, we'll take his turn. I don't think the monster will die or anyone else. So, basically, it is now the monster's turn, and he is going to multi-attack you, Brandon, because I believe you're sort of in there with. So, see if I can roll 20s. Oh, and thank you for the reminder, Lloyd. So no. Oh man, I need some new dice, guys. Christmas idea. Okay, so that's a 19. So, so the creature, after screaming and eating this, basically the mayor, he turns and he swipes twice at you and tries to bite you as well, sort of like the mayor. So does a 19 hit you? I know that a 3 and a 5 don't, but does 19 hit you?
It hits. Yeah,
Okay.
it hits.
So with that, you just die. That's game over. Sorry, guys. No, let me roll some dice here. So it's half damage, and they are strength based. So you're only getting 1, and so with that, you take 7 damage. So, like I said, he tries to swipe, and the monster feels sort of, well, I guess enfeebled is the best word, and he swipes and you move, and he swipes and you move, and he bites, and he probably gets your shoulder, and maybe you start bleeding a little bit. And with that, he roars again, but sort of stays where he is, feeling as though he has you guys cornered, more or less. And around, I want to say, is roughly 6 seconds, 7 seconds, depends on I think which version you go. Maybe 10. Some people say 7 to 10 seconds. And I don't get the con save that time, but it is now Brandon. Is now your turn.
You muted, buddy.
Oh. All right. So as the creature bites Craig, like he's gonna sort of like grunt a bit, and he's gonna you're a feisty beastie. How about a little bit of this? And he draws his short sword, and he kind of like presses in close and tries to like jab his short sword into like a chink in somewhere in the bone on the creature. Oh. Oh, that's a 4.
So a 4 does not hit the creature. So you like you said, you go and you try to put the short sword in, and the slick organic look of this thing's hide belies how strong it is. And as you try to put it in, it sort of slides and glances off a little unexpectedly. And with that, it is back to you, Dennis.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take another shot. Well, let's see. Now, if I remember right, you can take your bonus action before your regular action.
Yeah, you can basically take it at any time, more or less.
Okay. So I will use my bonus action to invoke the Stalker. Basically invoke my Spirit Companion and Stalker ability, which will give me a bonus to my damage, plus 2d6 plus 3 slashing damage, if I successfully hit.
Yeah, sounds good.
Ooh, I don't know if that's going to be 8. So 16 to hit.
A 16 does hit, yes.
Oh, okay. So
I'm just hoping your luck's going to run out soon.
I thought I did there. Let's see. So longbow is 8. So that's 7 points of piercing from my bow. An additional 11 slashing damage from the Stalker ability.
Awesome. So 7 and 11, or 11 total?
7 and 11. 7
Gotcha.
normal damage and 11 from the ability.
So tell me roughly what that looks like. You've got this animal companion. You're up on a roof somewhere. Do you shoot it? Does the animal attack? Tell me about it.
Yeah, the animal, that's not actually to attack the animal, but it's a special bonus granted to me.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't necessarily mean mechanics. I mean, like,
Right.
what
Yeah,
does everybody
so,
see?
yeah, so basically, as I shoot the arrow and it begins going through the air, I imagine that over the image of the arrow, since it's equal to the bite, you almost see an ethereal image of a wolf's head that sinks into the creature as the arrow bites into its flesh.
And sort of almost a yelp comes from the creature. Despite the fact that it's as enormous as it is, it's still got 2 arrows in it, and a short sword glanced off, and the creature, seems relatively smart based on everything you've discovered. So it turns to look at what did it, and probably still doesn't see you, but it's going to begin looking for other.
Right, and
targets.
so my wolf now gets to go on my initiative after me. So I give a soft whistle and say, "Suka, go," and the wolf will charge. I don't know if he can reach.
Yeah, you can reach it based on, I imagine you would have put him close enough. Like I said, from the well out to there is about 30 feet. Wolves are generally pretty fast.
Yeah, and he's being a dire wolf, he's also large size. So basically, yeah, he'll charge forward with a howl and attempt to bite. Well, I guess if it turned around, I guess bite into the neck or shoulder of the creature.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. So, he rushes in and.
Yeah, there you jinxed it. It got 6.
You said 6?
Great, so yep.
Yeah, sorry, no, 6 does not hit. So in fact, one of you guys hit it right on. So what I will just go ahead and say is a 16 is what you're trying to hit here. So in the event that you hit or that you miss, basically narrate it either way so that you do or don't give me damage. If you forget, let me know and I'll tell you that it's 16. But other than that, feel free to just go for it. That's not going to change.
Yeah, so he goes charging in and kind of skids to the halt at the last second as the creature's turning from the strike that I made. And rather than sinking his teeth in as the creature moves closer, they kind of like run into each other, and his jaw snapped down in empty air.
Yeah, sounds good. And like you said, so 2 arrows, and the creature sees some other creature come running in and try and bite at it. And Lloyd, you witnessed all this from fairly close. What does Rogel do?
So Rogel begins to complete his plan. He continues waving his hands, and he's kind of chanting in this guttural tone. He's going to cast Hex on the creature, which you place a curse on the creature that I can see. I do an extra 1d6 necrotic damage whenever I hit it, and I choose an ability. The target has disadvantage on ability checks made with that chosen ability. It's going to be Constitution. So it's a disadvantage on Constitution checks, and I cast Hex on it.
Awesome. So
and then, sorry, one more thing. Then I cast Eldritch Blast, my cantrip. At it.
Gotcha. So what I wanted to ask is Hex. Do I have to save to not allow that on me, or does that just happen? Or
straight up just happens.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure. And you said I get disadvantage on Con, which is what I need to make every turn for the enfeeblement.
Right now, actually, it actually says ability checks, and I think that's a save, so I don't think it applies. But if it makes a check, then yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm going to make my attack for a 14 on the die plus 6. It's definitely a hit, and it'll be 14 damage.
Awesome.
Damage.
Don't worry, you're going to need it.
Yeah, so I cast the curse. Oh, and a d6. Oh man, Warlocks rule.
Yeah, they do.
An extra 5 damage on top of that, so it'll be 19 damage. So I swirl around, I cast this curse on it, and you can see like these hellish runes begin to glow on the creature, and then I finally whip this eldritch blast of flame in its direction, and it smashes right into it.
And it, the hex comes over it, and I imagine there's some sort of spell effect, and you see sort of a just swirling demonic runes around it, and then immediately after, before the creature even realizes what's happening, this eldritch blast hits it, and so it lets out a scream. And is Eldritch Blast? No, I'm thinking Witch Bolt. Eldritch Blast is just sort of like a one missile. It's not the sustained one. Okay.
Yeah, it's a
one
gun.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it hits him, and he kind of turns his head, and it, again, another scream. And with that, it is your turn, John. And the last thing, as far as I know, is you climbed up, you got your rapier ready, and you put some sort of poison on it, something like that. So what do you do?
Yeah. Now I am going to pull an old school. I'm going to dive off onto his back with the poisoned rapier and all of my sneak attack damage. And
sounds good, man. That's how you kill monsters. So I would say, just in general, we're going to do an attack because this thing's fairly large enough that you could probably land on it relatively easy. We'll see what happens if you hit or not, basically. Well, let's say that.
Right. And yeah, I hit. That's 18.
Awesome. So you come down on this thing. There's some sort of poison on this rapier. So what does that do?
Well, the poison's just regular poison of plus 1d4, but actually I'm getting far more mileage out of the 2d6 of sneak attack damage that's getting added to this. So
Oh yeah.
so that's 6, 8, 11 points of damage.
So 11 more because you did 18 already, or did I misunderstand?
No, 18 was to hit.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. So my bad. That makes sense.
So the
11 points of damage.
11 points of damage, and now I'm on his back.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So you're on his back, and he's got to move around and stuff. So I'm probably gonna have you make a check to hang on if you'd like to. So we'll see how that goes, because it is the monster's turn. So the first thing I'm going to do is make this Constitution save to do full damage on my attack. And that's a 13, so he doesn't make it. What?
It's
Sorry.
also at the end of your turn.
Oh, at the end of my turn. All right. Well, he didn't make it anyway, but we're gonna save that. But thank you. That's important to know because I wanted to get that out of the way first.
Right.
So 2 arrows have hit it. Someone drops on top of it. A creature comes out. A spectral creature comes out. It gets hit with an eldritch blast, and then everyone sees this creature sort of almost ball up and kind of get a little bit sort of scrunch into itself as you see spikes begin protruding out from the from its sides, and spikes fly in all directions. And anyone that is on the ground, so John and Dennis, you are immune to this. I need a dexterity saving throw from you.
One other thing, I just double checked. If I use my assassinate skill, that was a crit, so that would have been doubled.
Okay, so perfect. I will. So the 11 you did would have been doubled.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
I'll dex check. 15 for the dex check.
Awesome. Okay, so actually, yeah. So Suka did need to make it, but the most important ones are going to be Lloyd and Brandon because they're on the ground. Brandon got a 22, and so basically, some of you may have expected it, especially seeing it happen. And Suka did really well. The spectral wolf sees this coming and moves right out of the way, but a spine comes right at Rogel as he's casting these things and looking, with a blind eye, and he is hit for 11 damage. So a spine, comes and maybe hits him under a rib or somewhere. And with that, the creature is going to try and shake. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to use my reaction to cast Hellish Rebuke at the creature.
Oh, absolutely.
So as I get hit, some of the runes in the creature begin to glow, and I let out a grunt and then turns into raise my hand, and hopefully fire will engulf it. It needs to make a dex save, DC 14.
Awesome. All right. Well, he's gonna have a little trouble with this. It's not the most dexterous thing, and I'm not rolling well. I just missed my dice tower with my dice. That's how bad it is. So he does actually get a 17.
Okay. So he'll take half.
Awesome.
So he will take 4 damage.
Sounds good.
Fire damage. Better than nothing. Yeah. So I'll like lift up the flames, but it'll like quickly jump out of the way, and I will curse in Infernal.
So yeah, he moves out of the way, and I imagine it actually. You said it's fire. So
Yeah,
I would
it's
say,
fire.
I am going to go ahead and say that it hits the wood of this building, and very small at this point, but the building begins to catch fire. So still the creature's turn. He did his spine attack, and he's going to turn to you, Brandon, and he's going to try and again swipe, and bite with half damage because he's still enfeebled. So does a 14 hit you, Brandon? Oh man, my die is literally stuck in this tower. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Okay, so again, 2 of the swipes miss, but the bite is a natural 20. So if you have a god, please start praying to it now.
Uh-oh.
It was nice knowing you guys.
So 12 damage, as again, you see it coming. A swipe once from the right hand and a swipe left from the next, and you just move out of the way, and then unexpectedly this chomp comes down. Again, its teeth sinking into you. This sort of bone skull coming close to yours. The smell coming off of it. Oh, I forgot. It's strength based. Thank you. I said that and I forgot. Lloyd reminded me.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. So instead of 12, I think I said it was 6, or was it 11? I don't remember what I said. Either way, you take half of what I told you took because warlocks are awesome.
Thank God.
Well, and I think that's the important thing is, as the GM, sometimes it can feel like the players are really killing it, but I'm like, well, you guys are literally, this is your job. If you're good at one thing,
Right.
it should be killing this fucking thing. So, sorry, excuse me. So yeah, in that case, the chomp comes down, and in fact, it feels like, or it seems like, it should be a lot more. You've been bitten by large creatures before, and it's a little less than you expected. With that, the creature is going to sort of run out into the courtyard, seeing that this fire is beginning to spread. So the creature from where it was is going to sort of run out near the well, because there's some fire up here. So with that, it is your turn, Brandon. What would you like to do? You're muted. Sorry.
You could get muted. All right. After that bite, I'm going to move out. I'm going to start moving out of the warehouse, out of the storehouse. What buildings to the left of me and what buildings to the right? Taverns to the right, and then another building to the left. Coming out of the storehouse.
Yeah. So this other building is a house.
All right. Yeah. I was just curious, like which direction that was, but okay. All right. So in that case, once I'm out of the storehouse, he takes the bow. He takes his bow from his back and he knocks an arrow. And he's just going to fire an arrow from his longbow into this thing. Okay. Yeah, that's 21.
So yes, a 21 definitely hits him. Like I said, if you hit over 16, you can just sort of narrate what happened. So tell me what that looks like and tell me how much damage it takes.
All right, so, oh shit. Okay, correct. Longbow is 1d8, right? Or am I?
I don't know off the top of my head,
Yeah,
but a
it's a
longbow
D8.
sounds like 1d8. Yeah.
Okay, thank God. I was pretty sure it's 1d8, but I wanted to make sure. So it's 8 damage, and pretty much what he does is he knocks his bow, and he's going to go aim for pretty much like he goes to like aim for the back, but then he decides he moves his aim down and fires into like sort of the right at just sort of like just above the calf, like right where like his joint is in the back.
Yeah.
He fires right into there, just yeah.
And sorry, how much
that's
did you?
8 damage.
8 damage.
Yeah, 8 damage.
Awesome. And so, with that, again, this creature's being hit from all sides, and it's not really sure what to do. Now, Brandon, you are currently standing inside of a building that is catching fire. Your character very much realizes this. There is still a little bit of room to.
I had walked out at the start of my turn.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
moved.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you
fire
said that.
at him.
You
Yeah.
mentioned that. Perfect. Okay. So, then with that, Dennis, it is back to you.
Okay, so first I will take another shot from my perch on the roof. So yeah, as I from the shadows release another arrow, it strikes true. Is it facing towards the building or away from the building that's on fire?
So it is probably facing away from it.
Okay,
It is
so
sort
yeah,
of.
the arrow sinks into its shoulder.
Okay, yeah, because you are. Where are you? Were you on this building? I don't remember which one.
The one just to the right of it.
This one. Gotcha.
Yep. And
We
then
talked about that. Yeah.
just as the arrow burrows into its flesh, Suka launches another attack, biting at its one of its hind legs, and it does. His teeth do sink true. Let's see. So his large fangs sink into the creature's flesh, and that's 10 points of damage. And it will retain its grip as it begins throwing its head back and forth, attempting to knock this creature prone. It needs to make a strength difficulty 13 save or to be knocked prone.
So this particular creature is immune to being knocked prone.
Okay.
Unless for maybe say ridiculous circumstances, but in that case, it has no trouble with that.
Okay. Yep. And then I will use my since I didn't use my bonus for other things, I'll use it for the stealth to duck behind the chimney and attempt to hide. And that's 18, so 24. I might re-stealthing.
So yeah, I think that this creature beset on all sides probably sees you, but then suddenly is unable to see where you went. But he knows what direction you came from.
Right. Yeah.
And so with that, Lloyd, you're up.
Okay. I'm just going to throw another Eldritch Blast at it.
Awesome. So
18 on the die.
I was going to say real quick, you are currently standing inside, probably mostly at the back, if I remember correctly, of this burning building. Did you want to move first? Or are you shooting through the door?
Yeah, I guess I
you're like
should.
here. Yeah, maybe coming out. I just wanted to. Maybe as a GM, I should just tell you you're on fire now later when you forget. But I don't think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, by the way, you're on fire now.
I'll move towards the door.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't seem like Rogue doesn't seem bothered by the flames, even though he's like just as vulnerable as anyone else. He doesn't seem to care. But nonetheless, he will. Survival instincts will kick in, and he'll move towards the door.
Awesome. And then Eldritch Blast. Sorry, there you go.
No, it's all good. So that is 16 damage.
Awesome. And so again, like I said, you guys, all of you, this is your job. This is your work. It's not a problem whether you've got a pact with the devil or there's some sort of spectral creature helping, or you just shoot arrows at it. Basically, you're taking this thing to school. This is no problem. But it's still sort of roaring and screaming. And in fact, I want everybody to give me a wisdom saving throw. And John, yes, you are still on its back, kind of hanging onto this rapier, and on your turn, you're going to have to try and stay on it. So for you, Brandon, you feel as though something is creeping into your brain, but it can't quite make it. But for you, Lloyd, you definitely feel a presence. You feel it's a little bit at first but then you begin feeling you feel almost a distant screaming from you're not sure where, but it appears in your head. And it's the same for Suka. I'm not sure how sort of attached you are, Thane, to Suka, but Suka would begin maybe not listening to your commands and having a little trouble. And if this gets bad enough, it's probably going to run away. The rest of you, like I said, seem unaffected. You definitely feel a presence in you, but so far it doesn't affect you. So mechanically, there's no effect yet, but like I said, sort of a distant screaming that almost in the right place could sound like a song. And with that, it is your turn, John. And what I need you to do is making another athletics check to stay on the creature, with disadvantage if you plan on pulling your rapier out and using it again.
Right. So with disadvantage, that's a 10.
So you are thrown from this creature. It's sort of wriggling around between the fire and all the hits it's taken. Rapiers aren't very large or otherwise thick weapons, so while it's stuck pretty good in there, you're thrown from it, and your rapier is actually still inside of it. So you've been thrown clear. I would say on one side, probably this way. And what would you like to do?
Other than try and nail the landing and then kind of stealth back into some location and break out the short bow, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good. Unless you have some sort of thing that allows you to hide in plain sight or otherwise sort of disappear, you can pull your bow out, but it's going to be hard to sort of escape this creature's perception.
I got a pretty good stealth roll, but nothing special as far as that goes.
Yeah, like I said, just in general, you're gonna have a hard time sort of hiding anywhere. It's generally a pretty open area. The creature kind of has a beat on you. But like I said, you can sort of run away and get your bow out and shoot it if you want.
Yeah, I just pull back towards one of the buildings. I don't necessarily have to be hidden. I just don't want to be right in the middle of the open.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Well, that'll save me the bonus disengage action, since then that didn't quite work the way I planned. But okay, we're good.
So do you attack the creature? You said you pull your bow out, which you can do, and then you'd be able to attack.
Yeah. And 70. So, well, that hits for 1d6. And that's 6. I don't.
The creature. Go ahead.
Do I get my strength or dex bonus with the short bow?
I think that you get the dex bonus on your attack. On the damage. But you don't get your proficiency on the damage. So it's proficiency and dex on the attack and dex on the damage. I think that sounds right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, with dex on the damage, then that at least is something. So
if you had 6, it would be, depending on what you have, probably 3 or 4.
I have 4, so it's 10 points of damage with the one arrow.
Awesome. So this creature is, beginning to look a lot like a pincushion. Quite a few arrows have hit it. It's a little bit on fire. It's certainly got a bit of it is charred. Is there anything else that you would like to do on your turn?
No, that's it.
Okay, so you jumped out, or you fell off rather, and probably rolled rather deftly. You pull out this longbow and you shoot it. And like I said, this creature begins, just screaming. I mean, it's sort of yelping and roaring and looking in all the directions of the different threats. And it is the monster's turn. So I make the enfeeblement later. So basically, the monster is going to the monster runs in to this now mostly burned down building and begins sort of pulling at these chains, trying to free this mer creature, this mermaid woman that's chained up there. And he pulls them out, and very uncoordinated. You know, he pulls them, and bits of her flesh come out as the hooks come out of her. You know, probably 3 or 4 hooks in her back, and they just pulled out. And I mean, she's being more or less torn to shreds. And he grabs her and basically sort of begins eating her. And he does so. Basically, he runs in and he takes whatever life this mermaid might have had left, and he removes it from her as this building burns down around him. And it's at that moment that any of you that did feel this sort of presence in your mind, that it disappears. It goes away. You know, it's almost like when a room is very silent and you hear a ringing. It's almost as though without this presence in your head, part of you feels gone. You know, you're not as entirely whole as you were before, even if you were whole when you got here. And with that, the creature begins to run away. So he runs in there and eats her, and he comes back out, and he's in the courtyard, but does not attack anyone. He, at this point, for a feral creature, seems like if it's fight or flight, it's time for flight. But he's run out of moves. So, Brandon, you're up.
All right. As the creature runs back out, I'm going to fire another arrow into it. And that is a 17.
So a 16 hit. So yeah, give me some damage. Unless you meant 17 damage, which I'm sure is possible.
No. Yeah, that's 17 to hit. And that's 1 damage.
Okay. Finally, you've rolled poorly on something.
Yeah. I did roll poorly on that first attack.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You missed that one. I forgot. So you shoot him. Like you said, I imagine you're still somewhere out in the courtyard. The monster has run around a little bit, but is there anything else you want to do? Move or take any bonus actions?
I'm going. Could I get on top of that house to my house, the house to my left in this turn?
Yeah, you could give climbing up it a shot. Basically, you know, it's not too far. At least you have like a 30 speed. Most people have a 30 speed.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think so. And you mean the one that's marked house, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, give me an athletics check. We decided to climb it. It's relatively easy.
That's 12.
So you do try to climb up this house, but one of the bricks comes loose, and you pull it down, and it sort of falls to the ground with a thud, and you come down shortly after it, and you are now prone next to the house.
All right.
And with that, Dennis, it's your turn.
Thane will step out from behind the chimney. I will use my bonus action to invoke my Suka again, this time for Seeker's Eye, which will give me advantage to hit this creature.
Awesome, yeah. So 16 hits, so when you roll, let me know how that goes.
Yeah. I was hoping to get a crit, but I didn't. But yeah, so that arrow strikes true once again. This time, 9 points of damage.
All right. So, like I said earlier, I mean that this creature is beginning to bleed profusely. It looks somewhat like a pincushion, and but somehow it seems a little less going crazy than it was before. And like I said, you see in its eyes the look of a of a, I wouldn't want to use the word defeated, but a creature that is knows it's outgunned more or less. You know, as intelligent as it may be, it understands that it's time to go.
Just for clarification, the job was to kill the creature, not just run it off, correct?
Yeah, the job is to rid the town of the creature. So killing it is good, but the idea is that you get bonuses for collecting information as well as making sure it's not going to come back. So if you could kill it or otherwise prove that you think that it probably isn't going to return again, you get payment.
Okay, so yeah, in that case, as that whatever attack that was going on, that was plugging Suka, he gives his head a shake and gives a growl as he charges forward, snapping his jaws at the creature. Oh, yeah, so that'll hit as he sinks his fangs into its shoulder. And that'll be...
And the creature yelps yet again. Like I said, defeated and almost cowering. Another arrow and another arrow, and finally this this spectral wolf, something it's probably never seen the likes of, comes and chomps at its shoulder.
For 11 points of damage.
Good. And with that, Lloyd, it comes to you.
So, kind of thinking the same thing as Thane, I'll call out, perhaps we should follow it. It's going to lead us to its lair. We may get paid more if we can discover something there.
And at this point, the creature does very much seem, in layman's terms, the creature is almost dead.
Right.
So certainly, I think that Brandon is Thane. He walked off. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's pretty big, right? So I feel like with the two rangers, we could probably track it to its lair.
Yeah, no question. Absolutely. Okay. It came from where it was coming from, and it had no reason to hide its tracks. It'd be pretty.
Right. In that case, no mercy. Oh, but I miss. Yep, just a 10. So the Eldritch Blast just maybe it's almost deliberate. Like Rogel has enough mercy, kind of beneath the surface. He doesn't want to kill this thing. He feels pity for it.
Yeah. And so, like you said, it whizzes by, and all of these things happening. The creature doesn't even have the wherewithal to dodge it, and it comes to you, John.
Okay. Then I'm still trying to figure this out. All right, we'll take another shot at it. Not sure if I get more than one with a short bow, but
no, I think later some people get multi attacks or something like that, but I think at level 3 nobody gets anything like that. As far as I know.
I think it's just the one. And I miss. So
Oh, and rogues don't even get multi attack at all. Lloyd pointed out because they get sneak attack damage. That makes sense. So your arrow goes wide, and I imagine probably sticks into the side of the tavern across the way. And did you want to move or do anything else?
Yeah, I will try and... Which building am I near? Am I near the tavern? Or
so I imagined that when you rolled off, you landed here. But if you think that you went the other way when you rolled off, that would work as well. I don't think we really...
Now, the house is fine as long as I'm not climbing the warehouse that's on fire. That's the most important part.
No, yeah. So like I said, the scale here is not great. I mean, I'd say there's probably a good 8 feet here. But the house is, or the storehouse is burning down to cinders now. I mean, it's been roaring for a little while. It's all caught, and almost even the stone is on fire. point.
I just don't want to be climbing a building that's on fire, but
Yeah,
I will.
no.
And no,
Oh, so
I got a 9.
Oh yeah, so the same. I mean, you climb up and you try, and it's
Yeah.
similar. This house maybe seems a little more shoddily built than the rest, and it's a little more difficult to scale. And you also find yourself prone. And the monster begins to realize that he wishes his luck turned a lot sooner than it did. But with that, it is the monster's turn. And so, looking up onto the apothecary roof, where you are Dennis, the creature seeing, between the wolf and seeing you, and at this point probably just lashing out, runs, full force, all fours like a bear, jumps up and lands, about halfway on the roof and halfway off it, kind of belly hitting and caving in this roof and swiping at you with both of its claws and biting. So that is one hit. What is your armor class? I got a 16.
15.
Okay, so yeah, an 18, a 15, and a 16. Those all hit. I think that he does still. Oh, okay. So listen. The GM forgot about his enfeeble roll last turn, so he's going to roll it this turn, and if he gets it, he's doing full damage and dead. Oh, he doesn't make it. No, he doesn't make it. He's got. Well, no. Oh, let me check.
14.
Okay, with his modifier, he just makes it. He's got a +4. So yes, 14 nails it. And I'm not sad to say that I think that you're going to die. Not really. I don't know if unless I do.
That's okay. Suka can get revenge.
More money for me.
So 25 points of damage to you with I said, a run and a jump, and a swipe and a bite.
That takes me down to 7, so I'm still up.
Okay, so as the creature does this, like I said, he runs and jumps sort of with wild abandon onto the most of this apothecary is made of stone, but the roof is made of wood, and the roof absolutely gives out. During this whole thing, he runs and jumps, lands on this roof here, sort of scrabbles up a little bit, tearing it apart, attacks you. The whole roof caves in. And so I need you to make a reflex saving throw.
So that'd be dex.
As you fall down. Yeah, sorry, I say reflex because I used to play 3.5. It's a dexterity saving throw.
Yeah, it kind of.
I'll never not do that. Oh, God.
So that would be 22.
So yeah, you only take half of the damage of the splinters as you fall into the roof.
Is it less than 7?
It is less than 7. It is 6.
Awesome. Woohoo!
So
I'm alive.
Caving in, like I said, so this whole thing comes, basically is being destroyed. I'd say he jumped about the middle, so the whole thing is coming down. The creature is landing on these stones and just destroying it, and you fall through the roof, and the Fandril in his whatever pajamas he might have, this apothecary or alchemist dwarf starts running out, and sort of into the out the door. He can barely make it, but it's the door is still intact, but most of the building is fallen. And there's silence, and sort of nothing moves. And Fandril is standing in the middle of the town square, kind of looking around at the half of the town burned down and part of it destroyed. And it's at that point that you realize the creature is dead. Its body lying over this, a lot of the, the carnage of the destroyed apothecary. And we're out of initiative order.
So, badly injured, his armor shredded, flesh and blood evident. Thane drops to his knees beside the creature. His bow somewhere on the ground. He draws his scimitar, baring his teeth as he just stabs the creature several times.
And of course, there's no reaction from the
Yeah.
creature.
And then he just kind of falls back to the ground, breathing heavily.
Yeah, the light has left his eyes.
And Suka will pat over, give him a lick on the face, and then begin patting away as he disappears.
Fandral falls to the ground, just like sobbing, returned to sort of the elderly, gaunt man that he was previously. And he calls out to Fandral and says, "The potions. Get some potions."
Yes, right. And so Fandral runs in and grabs one of these crates and sort of brings it out to the middle of the town. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
I'm as all this is going on, I run over to the apothecary and start like looking around, looking for what's his name?
So Fandral was the alchemist.
Yeah.
He ran out.
No, not Fandral. Shit's falling.
The girl Susie is in there, still in the cot. Her fate probably unknown, as the ceiling just caved in.
I was thinking of Thane.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Yeah, he's basically near death outside, laying beside
the outside?
his blade sank into it.
I was going to say, I will start heading into the wreckage, and I know something of alchemy, and I'll at least try and like potions out of the crates and see if there's anything not smashed. And
like I said, Rogel called out to Fandral. Fandral, sort of shook off the shock and ran back in and pulled out a crate of these healing potions, kind of in a relatively safe area, and he's handing them to anyone that comes over.
And I'm just going to quickly go over to Thane and just use Cure Wounds on him.
Okay, yeah.
Just kind of go over to him. And I'm just going to kind of, instead of using it sort of natural ability, I'm going to actually use it as like a bit of like just a more material ability. So it's just like I kind of go to, I need to take a small, like I take a few things out of a small bag I'm carrying with me, and I just kind of like just sort of put it to him. Eat this. I'll feel a little bit better. Might be able to get up.
So yeah, I'll take it as I'm laying on the ground, my blood pumping out this grievous wound, and chew it quickly.
Yeah. You get 3 HP back for that. So, all right. And then after that, I'm going to help. I'm going to help him up and just like kind of get him over to where the healing potions are.
Yeah, and like I said, Fandral is sort of handing them out and looks to most of you, but especially Rogel, because he kind of was there and was somebody he spoke to a lot. Just, what happened?
The creature is dead. It seems the mayor is dead.
What?
It's a long story. He had a lot of explaining to do.
And I imagine you relay the story to, if you'd like, relay the story to Fandral and sort of to go over it all again. But
may I say something?
Yeah.
Just like I just kind of walk up to the short version. Half of them's back. Half of them's in there burning. The other half's over there. And I point at the creature in his belly.
Fandral kind of looks at you and just, looking at the wreckage of what was his sort of living quarters, and then immediately thinks, the girl, and he runs in, sort of climbing over the creature and this wreckage to see what the fate of Susie is, lying in the cot in this now destroyed house. He finds that while some bits of the ceiling has fallen on her, otherwise she seems just about in the same state that she was. And he looks to you and he says, "Oh, the mayor's dead, and I guess I'm not sure Susie's going to make it another few days."
I have the anti-venom that's required. I took it from the mayor. if we get her out of here and cure the poison, I believe if we feed her some healing potions, the healing might take effect.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And, I imagine that as gingerly as possible, you take her out of the cot, bring her to a relatively more safe area. And you do just that. You give her the anti-venom. She, no change at that moment, but upon, giving her health potions, she seems to slowly but surely come back, and her eyes open. And she looks around, and she doesn't say anything. She's just silent. Especially probably, I imagine that Rogel, you're standing over her and looking the way that you look.
I think I would have made a point of stepping away when I see her come into consciousness and let Fandrel deal with that. The girl is blameless in this in Rogel's eyes, so he would try not to scare the shit out of her.
That makes sense.
But this thing is, I'm not gonna do that. It's just as she comes to, I'm just gonna smile and just show her my rows of sharpened teeth that I've sharpened myself. Just hey.
And with that, very out of sorts and just lying there, would kind of put her arms, kind of lean toward Fandrel, who I imagine is kind of holding her in his arms. She's like, Fandrel, thank the gods. And with that, that's basically the end of the one shot, guys. You heal back up, like you said. You can probably go and find a lair. There's a cave where this creature resides.
Yeah, I'm gonna go try and find my rapier.
Yeah, it's sticking out of the creature. It is still in one piece, sticking out of the creature, and you could now, pull it out.
I would make a great effort to take the skull of the creature and then some blood and bile and all the nasty bits, and then go to the lair and take whatever I can find, any ingredients basically that we can use to identify what the hell it was.
Exactly, and as is usually the case, you sketch the creature and write down as many notes as you can, like you said, taking specimens and things.
And as you guys were, there's nothing poisonous in particular. I mean, it threw spikes, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it turned out that the poison was not of the creature's steward.
All right, and I won't try and recover it.
As they're doing that, I just kind of stay out waiting for the fire at the storehouse to die down. Once it does down, I go in there. I start looking for the short sword I dropped when I pulled out my bow, just to see if it survived the burning.
Among the embers, yeah, you find it. Most of the flammable stuff was sort of the walls, the burned down to embers. I imagine you find yourself to the tavern where the Philly, puts you up for the night as per the contract. Your contract is over, and she doesn't even go outside. You come in, and probably the next day she'll realize maybe what's happened. And with that, the same carriage that arrived to pick you up arrives and took you back to wherever it was you came from, gaining full payment both for sort of figuring out why it was it's happened, as well as killing the creature and not letting it get away, and taking specimens and whatnot.
Yeah, it's certainly mentioned in the report afterwards, this mention of the they that the mayor talked about. We didn't find out who that was, but there was something making him do this, some sort of organization. Just include that in the report, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And, it gets archived with the rest, and one day maybe that will come back up again, and they'll have that for reference. Because in general, the monster hunters will, sort of this guild, they'll have a cool name at some point. For now, whatever. The Monster Hunters Guild that you're a part of, this organization, takes great interest in the fact that somebody somewhere decided that it was okay to capture, this sort of mythical, beautiful creature and flay it the way that they did, and furthermore, export it to the city. So had the mayor not been dead, of course, they would have been going after him, as well as any of his investing partners and things like that.
Yeah, and that's something that Thane would do after he's had a little bit of time to recover before they leave the next day. He will make sure that any of the fish, air quotes, that's been harvested and is in the tavern and being prepared for shipment is destroyed.
Yes, and upon finding out, everything that happened between Philly and Fandrel, they will be leaving, and I imagine that you would see the few people that did live there, bringing in their fish and or sort of that brought in their fish that night would just be not sure. You know, I imagine you would have been in the tavern by that point, and they're just they get it explained to them. However, that happens, and I guess they move on with their lives. So yeah, that is it, guys. That is the first monster hunting in Dragongrin, kind of an investigation style game with a little bit of combat at the end. A lot of places I think that I can improve. So I'm excited about that. You know, this was sort of a test, but overall it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So real quick, we'll go through the players. Let me know what you thought. You know, plug whatever you want to plug, and then we'll be wrapping up. So I'm going to go from my left over here. So you're up first, Brandon.
All right. I'm just going to quickly plug the Noodly podcast I run with the YouTuber Mr. Coolmanus, and just general talk nerdy stuff, movies, shows, other sort of stuff, and yeah. And this game was fantastic, James. Bravo.
Awesome. I'm really glad you enjoyed it, man. And yeah, hopefully there will be more. So how about you, Lloyd?
Jarl DM on the YouTube. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I have feedback to give you, but I'll message you or something about some ideas and stuff.
Oh yeah, perfect. That's what I'm looking for. And you're next, John.
Okay. Well, I don't really have anything to plug because I don't have a channel or anything, but that was loads of fun. Glad you could add me in and I could make it. And
yeah, man, it was great to have you join us. I'm glad I finally got to play with you.
Yeah. And then we can just, I'm available sometimes.
Awesome.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, especially in the new year, I'll be running some more games, and we'll see if we can get you guys in there again. How about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I had lots of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thanks to my fellow players and our GM. It was lots of fun.
Awesome. So like I said, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I am James from Tabletop Terrors. I run the channel with my brother Tim. The plan is for this adventure and this style adventure as well as, you know, maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 monsters will show up in a book somewhere on Absolute Tabletop. So thank you guys so much for letting me sort of work through this and just have a great time GMing something that it's been a while for me. So with that, we'll see you guys next time.